officers that were involved in the racist text messaging scandal that went down in Antioch in California. So we're going to name them and shame them. And this is all thanks to copblaster.com. A total of 38 Antioch police officers for the Antioch Police Department are under investigation for racist text messages where they talked about lynching black people that were sent between 2020 and 2021. And here are 14 officers: Sergeant Josh Evans, Sergeant Rick Hoffman, Officer Jonathan Adams, Officer Mortiza Amiri, Officer Scott Duggar, Detective Robert Gerber, Officer Aaron Hughes, Officer Brayton Milner, Officer Calvin Prito, Officer John Ramirez, Officer Andrea Rodriguez, Officer Eric Rombro, Officer Kyle Smith, and Officer Devin Winger.
Scandal is growing. Tonight, we're learning nearly half of Antioch's police department is involved in the racist and homophobic text chains that have rocked the community. And the fallout is now escalating, with the Contra Costa County Public Defender's Office demanding the district attorney drop every single pending case brought by Antioch police. NBC Barry's Stephanie Magallon joins us in the newsroom with the latest.
Jess, the situation is escalating. When we first learned about the FBI investigation, we knew at least 17 officers were involved. That number rose to 24, and now 45 officers, according to the County Public Defender's Office, and all of their cases are now in question. With every new racist text unearthed, an officer identified, the fear and outrage grows.
It frightens the community to know that the people that are charged with protecting them, the people who are funded by their tax dollars, feel a certain way about them, are joking about committing violence against them.
In a new letter to the Contra Costa County District Attorney, Public Defender Ellen McDonald reveals there's now at least 45 Antioch officers on text chains they call racist, homophobic, and violent against black people. McDonald also confirms at least 16 of those officers are in leadership roles.
The number of officers involved is so deeply concerning. It raises questions about how this went on for so long, who was complicit, what was the impact on all of not just the cases, but the people who called for help.
Tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area, condemned the recent revelations. Its executive director says she's afraid of reading the messages and the effect they would have on her. Messages like these, exchanged during a stakeout for 4 murder suspects. Officer Eric Rombó texted, "So many black people." Officer Jonathan Adams replied, "Bro, they all look the same." Rombó responded, "Tell me about it. I feel like I'm at the zoo."
There are people who are sitting behind bars based on the testimony of these officers who are now proven to be incredibly discredited.
So family, this story comes from California and is an update to the racist police officer scandal in Antioch in California. One of the officers who was caught sending racist messages to other officers and also reading those messages allegedly was Fire Antioch police officer Matthew Nutt. And now Matthew Nutt has been charged with assault in connection to a July 2022 traffic stop. Wow, Blue Lives Matter. So not only do you have a racist police department here, you also have an officer who is clearly violent towards the public. Matthew Nutt, his own body camera footage was reviewed, and it was determined that this guy was assaulting a citizen for no reason, and that's why he's facing assault charges. And here is a picture of your boy Matthew Nutt. Man, oh man, Blue Lives Matter. Is this your man's? You said that all cops are heroes. Well, I don't know if violent racist is what you would call a hero. The last of the racist cops in Antioch, California has been sentenced to prison. The picture that you see below you is a former police officer out of California whose name is Eric Rombro. Eric Rombro has been sentenced to 4 years in prison because it was exposed that the Antioch and Pittsburgh police departments in California were engaging in widespread racial targeting of black people. In fact, there were text messages that showed that they were admitting to falsely pulling over black people, to sicking their dogs on people, shooting people, and they even discussed openly lynching black people. 10 of these defendants who were cops have gotten a combined 21 years in prison. And the texts were from 2019 until 2022. You had these group texts where you had these cops talking about lynching black people just openly. And that lets you know that it's not just them. And it lets you know that if this is California, a supposedly progressive state, then it's all across the country. You have Sergeant Josh Evans, Sergeant Rick Hoffman, Officer Jonathan Adams, Officer Murteza Amiri, Officer Scott Duggar, Detective Robert Gerber, and Officer Aaron Hughes. Officer Brayton Milner, you have Calvin Prito, John Ramirez, Officer Andrea Rodriguez, Eric Rombro, as I mentioned before, you saw his picture, Kyle Smith, and the last is Officer Devin Wagner. A lot of these officers are not just white officers, but they're also Hispanic. Oh boy. And here is an example of some of the memes that they were sharing. What's been blacked out here is the N-word. Oh, they were just openly sharing it. These white Hispanic and Hispanic officers were just sharing the N-word just openly. Brown Hispanic allies right here. I'm going to give you a prime example. Officer Murteza Amiri, Hispanic guy, right? This guy says, and I want to quote, he sent a text to a civilian saying, you can do a N-word college classes, but you can't spell N-word. Wow. So Officer Rodriguez to Officer Amiri, this is Rodriguez, another Hispanic officer, racist N-word, probably was scared on the phone, N-word, boogeyman N-word. Another text here in 2020 from Officer Ramirez to Officer Amiri, uniform N-word, decorum N-word, top flight N-word. Officer Amiri texted to Officer Rumbro. No, they didn't push it that far. Bunch of guerrillas surrounding us and taunting us a fight and taunting a fight since we were honking N-word. They were all P words and didn't do shit. I wish they did. Wow. That is what you can expect from U.S. law enforcement.
Racist text messages exposed. Even the mayor.
Well, hey there, y'all. So in today's Truth and Consequences news, y'all, let me introduce you to the Antioch, California mayor. This is Lamar Thorpe. Mr. Thorpe is rightfully furious after 17 of his city's officers have been caught in a scandal involving racist text messages. Many of you all have probably heard about this. The existence of these messages became known last month as a result of an ongoing federal probe into Antioch and Pittsburgh police officers. The FBI, which is investigating alleged fraud, bribery, drug distribution, and civil rights violations related to the use of force, found these messages after agents served search warrants on a number of officers' homes and showed up at the police department to seize phones and other personal items. A county judge has released the names of 17 Antioch, California police officers accused of some dirty business, including but not exclusive to sharing messages with racial slurs and memes. Via a very composed message on YouTube, Mayor Thorpe said the culture of the department requires further exploration, including how the hell all this alleged misconduct could go on for so long without anyone on our command staff noticing, from lieutenant on up to chief. However, on Tuesday night, Mayor Thorpe was not nearly composed, and he went off. One of the text messages that had been exchanged stated, "I'll buy someone a prime rib if they take that bleep Mayor Thorpe out with a whatever type of weapon." Mayor Thorpe relied on these police officers to keep him and his family safe, particularly his daughter, who he said is home alone sometimes. However, he doesn't trust them anymore, and who can blame him? In a fiery speech at that council meeting on Tuesday night, he said, "Get the hell out of here. These people can go. They can go fly a kite for all I care. Get out of my police department. We don't need them here. I'm disgusted. I'm blown away that there were threats to my personal life in those text messages." He is also demanding an external audit of the department's internal affairs process going back for 6 years. Please understand this is not isolated. These same issues are happening in every police department across the country. So long as qualified immunity and the thin blue line mentality persists, we will see no actual change in our policing systems. Without accountability, there is no trust.
Another police corruption scandal that I find especially ironic. Let's see what you think. I think it's crazy. Did you know officers can receive significant pay increases if they invest in their education? Well, these gentlemen invested in their education by hiring a woman to take classes for them. She got arrested. They got arrested. That's conspiracy. That's wire fraud. They got into these police officers' phones and text messages, and guess what they found? Civil rights violations, steroid abuse, low-level bribery, assaults of citizens on a regular basis, including using a dog to hurt citizens. That's especially low. And they found a gun that shot projectiles that were non-lethal, but still hurt people. So that's just bizarre. There were so many racist texts that they got put into the probe that's going on in Antioch. So Antioch is having a terrible month. So here's my problem. We need to rebrand the police. To protect and serve doesn't seem like it's working anymore. So what can we come up with here? Let's really blow them away with some ideas. I got one: to neglect and deceive. That's mine. But what can you come up with? I want some great answers here.
We have signed this agreement. Each have a copy. It now will get lodged with the court.
The settlement agreement signed by lawyers and representatives of the city of Antioch is historic, says civil rights attorney John Burris.
What we have done is put something in place that future generations, and certainly those immediately here, will know that there's a place to go if, in fact, they're not treated properly.
The agreement stems from a years-long FBI investigation into the Antioch Police Department that uncovered a department-wide racist texting scandal. It led to 40% of the police department being placed on paid leave and the conviction of 2 officers. A 3rd officer, Eric Ramba, will be sentenced in January.
Leadership sets the tone, and over time, it shapes culture. Today is about refusing to let the city remain defined by the failures and controversy that brought us to this point.
One of the goals is to improve transparency and accountability. Some of the key provisions include better training programs for officers, an early warning system to identify officer misconduct, more rigorous oversight, an independent monitor to oversee the enforcement of the agreement, and more data and analysis, all to be completed within 5 years.
That is going to entail analysts and sworn personnel so that we can gather information and put it out for the community to see.
Burris says this agreement is more comprehensive with more enforcement than a similar agreement reached with the U.S. Department of Justice. But there will be challenges, such as not having enough staff to reach compliance and implementing reforms when many of the officers involved in the texting scandal are back on the force.
I think it's a challenge. If it were up to us at the time, we would not have want any of these officers to come back.
We are very much rebuilding the police department, but we are also understanding that as we rebuild, we are changing the culture.
The city says some of the reforms are already underway.
Racist texting scandal within the Antioch Police Department. The Contra Costa County DA's office has just released a new report containing even more messages. KTVU's Evan Cernovsky has been working on the story. He's live tonight there in the newsroom with the latest. Evan.
That's right, Mike. This 14-page report goes beyond just discriminatory language. One officer in the department's gang unit even boasts about beating suspects. The Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office released another trove of texts Monday detailing shocking racist communications between Antioch police officers. Some describe conducting surveillance on black suspects, saying, quote, "They all look the same," and, quote, "I feel like I'm at the zoo." After arresting one suspect, an officer boasted, quote, "I field goal kicked his head." Some of the texts are just too disturbing to repeat. The report is the second document detailing racist communications between officers released by prosecutors in recent days.
These are horrendous, outrageous statements, and it goes not only to the verbalness of abuse, it's also the physical abuse. And there are no restraints on these particular men.
Civil rights attorney John Burris is representing some of the people singled out in the texts and is considering further legal action.
From my point of view, these are all physical civil rights violations that should be dealt with separate and apart from
this notion of all the racial slurs.
The public text messages are just the latest in a wide-ranging scandal involving more than a dozen Antioch officers. The FBI has been investigating the department for months, with nearly a quarter of the force facing suspension for various transgressions. Last week, Contra Costa County Public Defender Ellen McDonnell sent a letter to the DA's office asking for all pending cases investigated by Antioch police to be dismissed. Antioch Police Chief Steve Ford addressed the scandal in a statement last week, apologizing for the texts and saying an outside agency has taken over the investigation. Now, Mike, the DA's office said it met with the public defender's office today to come up with a way to identify cases that may be compromised by the officers involved in this scandal. Those cases may be eligible for dismissal or resentencing.